So here we were in 1980 where these three British Columbia companies had bought out Rayonier for $424 million with TFL 24 in their pocket as part of their pulp supply. And then they went into the market, and what did they do?
Well, they went into the market and they raised about $110 million from approximately 4,000 investors for investment in the Squamish, for modernization of the Squamish plant, which was the old wood fiber plant.
Right, and they got $150 million from the TD Bank, put in $50 million of their own, and started to build a new pulp mill in due course of Squamish.
Right.
Now, how many, the log supply from Moresby, from TFL 24, feeds how many operations?
Well, let's put it this way. The log supply from South Moresby portion of TFL 24 is enough to supply a fairly good sawmill, employing 150 to 200 men annually. And the residue, or the residual chips from those sawmills, are destined for Squamish. Now, if we lose South Moresby, it puts a ripple effect into the system. And it's not just a matter of the Squamish pulp mill suffering. There's also sawmills. Some portion of the owner's sawmills will be affected to the tune of 150 to 200 jobs.
Right.
There's going to be some portion of the Squamish pulp mill affected in employment. But worse yet in the Squamish pulp mill is that they will not be able to reach their productive capacity, and the production they do put out will be very costly because the overhead costs will be assimilated on smaller volumes.
But they'll lose some of the supply then.
They're losing some of their supply.
How much of their supply will they lose in terms of chips and pulp logs?
Well, I'd have to make a separate calculation, but be somewhere in the range of, it could be from 15 to 20%.
Now, this new pulp mill is under construction now.
Right now.
And it's due to open when?
Next year, April, May, June.
If you had known that TFL 24 was threatened by Moresby, would you have built that pulp mill?
You'd have to ask our owners that, but they would have cut back on the capacity or the size of the mill.
We're now in a situation where TFL 24 was used as collateral to raise the money for the developments, right, including the pulp mill.
In the prospectus, which was signed in good faith when they went out to the public to raise this $110 million, it was stated in there that the Western Forest Products' 3 tree farm licenses, including Tree Farm License 24, was the basis of the fiber supply for the Squamish rebuild.
What happens to our credibility as an industrial province if somebody comes along and tears up TFL 24 or even compensates you for it?
Well, just credibility just takes another lurch downward.
How much in the way of compensation would you need, do you think, if they did take away TFL 24 and give it to the environmentalists holus bolus?
Compensation will never replace tree farm growing land.
All right, what's the value of the logging on TFL Moresby to the economy of British Columbia in the next 45 years?
On a study made for 45 years, yeah, it's over $1 billion.
Now, we better get round to the environmental side just a little bit. Show me that map again, or have I got to do it here? Have I got to do it here? Back a bit. The yellow stuff is what will be logged at 0.5% of the timber on the license over the next 45 years.
Correct.
Per year.
Correct.
The red stuff is sacrosanct. That includes Burnaby Narrows.
That's what we would give up to get out of this terrible confrontation and conflict. And that's, we're giving up tree farm land, and when we give up that land, we're also reducing the number of jobs in British Columbia.
Now, the white in South Moresby would all still remain as virginal forest.
Right.
Give me an idea of a comparison of the size of Moresby and something we can understand.
Okay, the land area of South Moresby is 560 square miles. Now, if you want to put that in some type of relationship, it's the equivalent of 358 Stanley Parks. Mm-hmm. Now, I can visualize 2 Stanley Parks, 5 Stanley Parks, 10. Try to visualize 358 Stanley Parks.
All right, of the 358 Stanley Parks in the total land area of South Moresby, how much would be logged over the 45 years?
72 Stanley Parks.
72 Stanley Parks will be logged.
Right.
And that would leave 276.
286, I guess.
286.
Right.
Stanley Parks. Now, where do you go from here? What you need now is a decision from the cabinet.
We need a decision from Victoria. But Jack, as I said when we started out, that you know, one of the pluses that's occurred because of this continued indecision out of Victoria is we've been able, thanks to you, to get our side of the questionnaire.
Now, have you prepared and had a logging plan approved for the next 5 years or 45 years in the TFL area in South Moresby?
We do it in 5-year periods, 5-year working plans.
Now, why did you stop logging on Moresby, small though it is?
We have a cutting permit approved, but we have no approved cutting areas.
So therefore, when did they put the freeze on the Lyall Island logging?
Oh, we were allowed to continue working on our cutting areas for the last, say, 18 months.
Okay,
I'm not sure.
I made my emotional pitch kind of for Lyall Island because I could see the 83 jobs and I could see the spin-off jobs down on the lower mainland. Would Lyall Island alone do anything, the logging of Lyall Island, do anything to maintain your financial stability, credibility, and the jobs?
Yeah, it would have some effect, some beneficial effect, but it's minute. We have to have 45 years of logging ahead of us because behind us we've got 35 years of regenerated forest land.
Now, of course, the image painted of you by the environmentalists, especially in that very unfair $26,000 Globe and Mail ad the other day, is that you are a real bunch of clots.
Oh.
Clear-cut logging, jam the streams, the hell with everything.
But the truth of the matter, Jack, is we are one of the better reforestation performers in Canada, let alone British Columbia. And it's rather ironic that the 3 environmentally sensitive areas in British Columbia today, South Moresby, Mears Island, and the Stein, are all operated by 3 companies that have poured a lot of money into modernization of their plants and to protect their jobs. And in addition, they have exceptional reforestation records.
All right, you've been in this business a long while. One simple question. What do you see for the future of the pulp, logging, and sawmill industry in British Columbia if you lose not only 24, but you find you're under successful attack on Aboriginal rights?
I think well, the Aboriginal rights, I understand, claim 140% of the land base of British Columbia. And if all these detrimental things take place, the forest industry is going to collapse.
Time for one short, sharp segment of calls, if you're interested, on Western Forest Products and Rodger Manny after the break. Well, I've certainly got myself embroiled in this complicated caper, but the picture is now clear. If you want to give all of Moresby to David Suzuki, who wants to see the death knell of the forest industry, got into some quotes, if you want to do that, wipe out all logging on Moresby. Wipe out God knows how many jobs. Wipe out the confidence in the stock value of some of the major logging and sawmill and pulp operations in British Columbia. It's a simple decision for the cabinet to make. Pelton won't talk to me. Waterloo won't talk to me. Nobody will talk to us. As long as they talk to us when they make their decision, which they must make soon. And let me say one thing before I go to the phones. It's entirely in Premier Bennett's hands. If he wants to lift the phone and speak to Macmillan in Ottawa and say, the deal's off, that's it. Or the compromise suggested by Western Forest Products, or whatever he wishes, as long as he does something soon. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Jack. Good morning, Roger. I'm calling to support your cutting license and the extension for 45 years or whatever is needed, basically because I'm a member of the Plumbers and Pipe Fitters Union. We have been constructing your new mill that's going on up in wood fiber. We need the jobs, and as well, we need the reassurance that we're going to be making those jobs come out in the Squamish mill as well.
Thank you, sir. I just want to go through them quickly if I
Okay.
can, Roger. Make your comments short, sharp, and quick. Go ahead, please.
Hey, Jack, if the government gives out this tree farm license and they renege on it, isn't it the same as the unions reneging on their collective agreement?
It's a double cross, madam, no doubt about it. Go ahead, please.
Oh, I want to ask about reforestation and, you know, what the record is of foresters in BC.
Okay, how's your record of reforestation, Roger Manning?
Our record is good to excellent.
Go ahead, please. Hello, where are you? Oh, dear, my mistake. Go ahead, please.
Hi, Jack. I just wanted to point out that that wasn't brought out here, that the creeks and rivers around there have a boundary around them that the forest companies don't log. I believe it's a multiple chain boundary around all the creeks and everything to stop pollution and.
Well, that's fairly enough. I think we know that. There's no intention that you're going to go into the sacred areas of South Moresby, Anthony Island, or any of the West Coast.
No, absolutely no.
And you would leave untouched in square miles
48.
448 square miles untouched.
Untouched out of a total of 560.
You would log 112.
Square miles over 45 years.
At how much a year? 1/2 of 1% of the land area each year for 45 years.
Right. And with reforestation right behind us.
You'd hardly notice it in that climate up there.
No, you wouldn't.
Certainly no tourist place, I'll tell you. Go ahead, please. Nobody there. Go ahead, please.
Hello, yes. I'd like to make a comment about logging on Lyall Island and
On Moresby, yeah.
Moresby. Okay, if these companies are so concerned about jobs, why don't they reforest Vancouver Island, where they've done a lot of clear-cut logging on, and along the coast?
Good question. Why don't you reforest all of Vancouver Island overnight?
We're reforesting our own lands. That's a big enough job for us.
There is a shortage of seedlings, is there not?
From time to time there is.
Go ahead from New Hazelton.
Good morning. There is a problem here, Jack, with the operation. They say they have a cutting permit without a cutting area, but they cannot have a cutting permit unless they have a logging plan.
We've got a logging.
They've got logging plans
We're right up to scratch on legalities.
and all of that. It's the government that froze it. They froze the cutting permits, right? You understand? Because they can't make up their mind on what to do with Moresby. Go ahead from Pritchard.
Yes, I worked at a seedling plant, and it hasn't been up to capacity for the last 3 years. That's for your reforestation. And that would be a spin-off of jobs from this Moresby.
That was what?
It'd be a spin-off of the jobs. I suppose it would help.
Right.
Go ahead, please.
That's Mr. Webster.
Yes.
I'm calling from Vancouver, but I'm out of Kamloops. We have a problem here. You looked at your map and you see where your logs are in proximity to the water. The transportation costs there, the licenses for trucking, etc., that are incurred in the interior of BC will not be felt down there.
No, I don't want to mix apples and oranges. We're dealing specifically with Moresby. Go ahead, please.
Yes, Jack, it's Bill Wilson. I'm a little disappointed in you and in your guest and other supposedly responsible public figures who...
And what's irresponsible that we've done this morning, pointing out the Western Forest Products side of the story? Just what's irresponsible about that?
Not pointing out the facts, but if you dealt with the facts in regard to land claims, Jack, as you know them very well, instead of attempted to sensationalize this issue, and your guest...
I don't think you need to sensationalize the land claims issue. There are two very important cases coming up under one judge very shortly on Mears Island and northern Vancouver Island, which might set the tone for many years and about which people are rightfully interested and concerned.
Yes,
I'm
Jack,
talking
the
about...
simplistic terms of either land claims or no logging simply do not maintain an informed public, and I think that that is what Mr. Bennett is finding out now. His polls are telling him that the public is generally in favor of land claims, and no Indian group that I know is opposed to development. Now, I think that and/or proposition
Well,
is
now
something
that's
that we've
good.
got to generate
I
ourselves out of.
appreciate your point. I'll deal with it separately one day, but you're putting me off my particular topic at the moment. And I'm running the show. Go ahead, please.
Gentlemen,
Yes.
what has happened to helicopter logging and highline logging that we heard about 25, 30 years ago, where there was an absolute minimum of damage to the environment?
We're not going into logging techniques. We're talking about the particular problem in South Moresby. I'm grateful for your presence here this morning, Rodger Manning. We have pointed out, I hope clearly, the Western Forest Product situation and the gloomy and dangerous financial future you and 3 major companies in British Columbia face if you get double-crossed on TFL 24.
Right. Thank you, Jack.
The decision must come from Mr. Bennett. Next, a moment of light relief. Thank goodness the little Cockney is here after the break.
One of the problems in the art world today is that nobody can draw hands and feet.
That's right.
Is that right?
They can't draw
Repeat
hands and
that
feet.
after me. One of the problems.
One of the
in the
problems. Well, I can't repeat it like you've said it. I mean, half of them don't understand what you said.
What did you say?
One of the problems in the world today is that artists can't draw hands and feet.
Well, you're an artist.
Well, I'm an artist. Of course, I'm an artist.
You can't draw hands and feet.
Look, I got a thick book. It's that thick, my old mate. That'll show you. There's 1,000 pictures in there. All showing.
Every year, Ben wanders in between the legs of the security man. He's so sharp.
Oh, I didn't mean to laugh. This is a serious program.
He brings with him his book. He brings with him his book. Now, this is a regurgitated collection of previously marketed cartoons.
They're the best of them. That's the best of 5 years' work. And I tell you, it wasn't an easy job putting that together. It took us all afternoon to do that. that ain't one of your quick books, you know.
But there's nothing here that I can say that's funny. Tell me a joke.
No, it isn't the point. Look, let me tell you something. The great thing about a book like this is it's thick, see? Now, you can stand on that and get to a decent book. You can actually put that on the floor in the store and reach something you've always wanted. The other thing, you can put these in your shoes, bits of that. I cut that up last week and put it in my shoes. Lifted me up 6 inches.
Made you as tall as Alan Fotheringham.
Almost. Almost as tall as Fotheringham. And you can't take that out the store without the help of the assistant. It's difficult to pick up, mate.
What's it cost?
$12.95. Isn't that a ridiculous price?
And what about the hands and feet?
Hands and feet is an interest. I'm pleased you brought that up, really.
I can't think of anything else to talk about.
I'll tell you why, because people always criticise the way I draw hands and feet. See, let me give you a demonstration.
I've been waiting for the demonstration.
I know. You figure you're going to earn a decent living, don't you?
Ben Wicks at one time was a batter boy.
Yeah, I was.
He was a batter boy. You were a batter boy.
Yeah, I was. Selling apples and pears.
Apples a pound pears. Is that right?
That's right.
Apples a pound pears.
That's very good, actually.
Yeah.
Right, look, a lot of people are bothered because their kids are going to art school and they're drawing hands like that, see? They're like a bunch of bananas. But don't worry about it. As long as you put it on the end of an arm, that's a decent hand, see? Now, it's the same with feet. If you can't draw feet, that's the way I draw feet, see? Now, that's a very good foot. But once you put a leg on it, see? That's cured. Now, that's a foot then. You know that ain't an hand, don't you?
Yeah, I know it ain't an hand.
Nobody's going to walk along with an hand on the bottom of their leg, right? So that's what you do.
What about your toes, though?
No.
How about a naked feet?
Now, naked feet are very difficult. As you will find, if you look through the artwork, for instance, let's take Michelangelo, right? Can't draw fingers. Could never draw fingers. If you go in that chapel, that Sistine Chapel, right, and it's right up on the ceiling there, 2 fingers like that. Couldn't draw 4 fingers, ended up with 2, both touching each other. They had terrible problems. You take Van Gogh.
He couldn't draw ears.
Couldn't draw people. Couldn't draw ears. He had a terrible problem. Took one of them off because he got so mad about it. But you will find he draws chairs, nice chairs, funny chairs, out of shape, and sunflowers, right? That's all he can draw. Turner, lovely at water. Draws lots of water. You can put your hands in it, as my mother would say. You can honestly put your hand in his water, but no people. Fisherman, the odd fisherman, standing in a boat, can't see his feet. Had a problem with feet. Constable, trees. Lovely trees, no people. Guy with an A-wagon. I mean, who the hell can see him, for Christ's sake? He's like this by the A-wagon. No feet again. Whatever art, Mona Lisa, right? Lovely looking smile, no hands. No hands at all, they're down here somewhere. Rembrandt, you won't see even legs. Rembrandt had a problem with legs. All you see is faces. And even then he wasn't too fussy about his faces, so they put them all in the dark. You can hardly see them. There's a guy holding a lantern. There's in one of his famous pictures, holding a lantern. It's a bloody fist. He ain't holding a lantern. For Christ's sake, you need fingers to hold a lantern. He's like that. Couldn't there isn't a person. Gauguin is another one. Terrible problems with people. Had to go down to the South Sea Islands to try and tackle people that he figured he could draw. Hopeless.
Picasso.
Well, Picasso, I don't know how to tell you, couldn't even put the eyes on a person, Picasso. They all had to be on one side of the face, for Christ's sake. At least eyes, I can do eyes. I mean, you shove one on either side of the nose and you're laughing. So I tell you, this really bugs me when people say, I can't draw hands and feet. They don't realise there's a hell of a lot of people can't draw hands and feet.
Okay.
Right. So much for the art world. What do you want to talk about?
You've been stepping out of character to work as a reporter.
Yes, I was.
What did you do?
Well, I went to Eretria, your area of the world, as I understand. You were there, northern Ethiopia, and I lived with the rebels for a month. They're the only ones who could understand what I was saying. No, I lived with them for a month, covering the war for the Toronto Star. So I did a 2-part series on that.
Yeah, cartoons?
Oh, no cartoons. This is written stuff. These are words and stuff like that.
An honest-to-God reporter.
Oh, I'm going to win the National Newspaper Award.
How come they sent you to do this?
Well, they couldn't find anyone else who was willing to go. Dangerous place. You know, you got to be little. Let's face it. I ended up on a camel. Well, not actually on it. I left my stuff on the camel.
Yeah.
Took me a day, the last day of getting into the area I went into.
Now, you lived with the rebels. This was the fighting. This wasn't the famine. Was this fighting or famine?
This is fighting. No, this is... What is that line about? Neither feast or famine.
Right.
Oh, no, this is neither fight or famine. This is just fighting. They're fighting a 1914-18 war there. You get in the trenches and they start throwing stuff at you, mate.
Why
no,
the
this
hell
is tricky
did you
stuff.
do this?
Well, I went there really for my wife, doing works and runs a medical supply outfit from Toronto that supplies medicines and drugs all over the world and medical supplies. And the rebels in the rebel area, cut off by the war, they desperately needed medicines in that area. So I said, well, it's a bloody good story. And the rebels said, well, we'll make sure you get in there if you bring the medicines with you. So that's what I did. I took the medicines and that was it.
And did your wife come with you too?
No, you got to be joking. Dwayne just sent me.
Yeah,
she stayed home. Yeah.
How long were you over there?
I was over there a month, actually, Jack.
A month?
But it was interesting because you were there, weren't you?
I was only there briefly during the war in Eretria.
But for a year.
Yeah.
Well, it's a hell of a long time to stay in a place like that.
And it was high up too.
Always, it's high. It gets cold of a night.
Yeah, 6 or 7,000 feet up.
Oh, Christ.
Very high up.
Well, we went in and out the mountains and stuff like
and
that.
you
But
flew,
it was horrible.
you flew from Asmara to the rebels?
No, as a matter of fact, the rebels don't hold Asmara where you were. They surround it. So I got to the outskirts of Asmara, but you cannot get into the town.
Listen, you're a gem. I really do like you. I try and hide it at time. The first Ben Wicks Treasury.
Yeah, I've got to tell you something, you know, a guy with the London Times, a critic, once said about a book, he said, if for sheer bulk, this book should be taken seriously. And I think that's the review of this. You might not like it, but it's bloody thick. You won't get a thicker present this Christmas for anyone, I'll tell you.
Here's a good one, very tough.
Oh, is it a good one?
It's kind of risky.
Oh.
Hi there, sailor.
Yeah.
I'm not a sailor, I'm a government official studying prostitution. That will be extra. Your plates or mine. Is that out of your own little tiny brain?
I forget, yeah, I think so. I usually copy someone else's, but that one I think was mine. No.
Ben, thanks very much for coming.
It was really lovely.
Hope you sell
again,
your
yeah.
book for the Christmas trade.
Oh, it's doing very well. I mean, I got rid of one this morning. That's yours for free, mate.
I'll be back after the break. Thanks, Ben. You haven't had the last of the battle for South Moresby. There are two legitimate opposing forces, the environmentalists, and then there are the pulp mills, the sawmills, the loggers, the workers, the management, the companies. But don't forget this, if they give all of Moresby and take away TFL 24, there are going to be grave industrial and financial repercussions, whether I like it or whether you like it or lump it, in British Columbia. We'll follow the Moresby story too, I'll tell you on Monday. I've got Richard Gwynn coming in, fairly good political commentator, if we can stand another political commentator, and we'll have something brighter as well, Monday, 9 a.m. precisely.
in a fit of anger and desperation, took the child's Cabbage Patch doll out in the driveway, laid it down, and drove over it 4 times with her Honda.
Whoever didn't talk or make a sound or move for 120 seconds got a nickel. And that's remarkably successful with Webster children.
Is that right? Money grubbers.
Money grubbers, yes.
Yeah.
Apropos of absolutely nothing, I was delivered by a midwife and she made a remarkably good job of it, all things considered. What the hell was breadfruit? Why don't the roses here not smell of roses?
And that is a piece of china. If you want to know what china looks like...
You mean a cup and saucer? Oh, no, you mean a piece of china.
Yes.
Is that in good shape, that aspidestra?
That looks okay to me, yes.
Oh, my aspidestra's doing fine.
Now if...
British Columbia Television, this month celebrating 25 years of broadcasting for British Columbians.